I love that. Well, let's get this thing started.
All right.
Let's talk about why calling neighborhoods is an essential component to your lead generation.
Yeah, it's interesting because, we have low inventory right now. So people are looking for more ways of trying to extract leads out of the market. It's interesting in my market. It's down a lot, and I'm sure most of the markets around the country are down. So where do you find them and how do you extract them? We're going to have to come up with some other ways of doing that before someone else knows about it. And it's amazing, years ago when I was, you know how you do all these calls and you do them on a regular basis, you start to land things that you never expected. And I think that you got to play the numbers game. With calling these neighborhoods, it's all a numbers game. And I think that agents don't realize that it's a high volume game, right? You got to call a lot. You can't do, I just don't think it works if you're doing 10 contacts in a day, if you're doing neighborhood calling. You have to do it high volume.
Now,
Definitely.
when you're saying neighborhood calling, what are you referring to specifically? Just so that it's clear in those people's minds that are listening.
Well, that's actually a really good question. So first of all, picking the neighborhood out. I think if you had a listing, and the old adage of let the farm find you until not you find the farm, but let the farm find you, which means that if you have a good story, you say you did an expired or listing in a marketplace, you want to expand out. So that becomes a neighborhood that you're working. So if you had two of them, we're trying to connect these circles to the point that you're working that market out. So it becomes more strategic than just throw the dot and hope and pray you get something out of it. So I would say, you have a good story, you're calling around it. Even if you had a buyer in there, you're calling around it. If the turnover rate, look at the numbers and making sure that you have turnover there. If you have a agent that's dominating really strong, I wouldn't be calling in that neighborhood if that person is running 30 or 40% of the market share. But if you have a fragmented market where you have not a real leader in there and you feel strong enough to go in and take it, then you could. So I think it's a vast neighborhood where you've had a good story. But if you're going cold without a good story, it's a lot more difficult to go in there.
All right, dude, I love that. So I actually go pretty deep in farming. So this kind of goes along the same lines, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a big, it's a part of the farming method. But I think, remember the old days, you pick what you like. And then you're in that farm for 2 years and you get nothing out of it, right? And you're hoping that year 3, year 4, year 5, and you find out that someone else has come in. So I think that starting off with a good story and the FSBO or Inspire that you converted or listings you converted in there, that starts everything going. And now you can just expand from there. And you own that because you have that. Remember the non-MET database and the MET database. Well, that geographic area that you're calling basically is a non-MET database. So your return on that conversion over a course of time is going to be a little less than the 10% you get off of a MET database. So, but you got to work it. I mean, that's your neighborhood. I wrote down, you have to establish the brand. You're the brand. You've got to dominate. You're going there to take it. You're not going there just to visit. You're going there to take it over. And I think that's what we want to do.
That brings up a good point. And you know what I love about talking to you? We do this every time because I'm about to pivot.
Yeah. Don't do this. Don't pivot on me, please.
It's so good. Only because you have such great ideas, dude. I think we need to talk outside.
I'll let you pivot just this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. I think it's awesome that you touched on that because when we're talking about neighborhoods and us going into neighborhoods, we sometimes forget as real estate agents that we're not going to connect with everybody. And agents get so hurt by that because we're naturally more expressive, right?
Yeah.
And for somebody not to like us, that hits at the core for most of us. Right?
You're only going to, it's like, well, we know what personality style you are.
That's right.
Well, and you lean probably towards that. But, if you're a driver personality, which is the extreme on the other end, that's not good. But you're going to dominate a marketplace. But I think here's the challenge is that I think it's easier for you than some, but you've got to get out there and get exposed. You're going to have to shake hands and kiss babies, as I said. You're going to have to run for office in that marketplace and not be afraid to, talk to people. and stick your neck out a little bit further and be out there. And I think the agents don't find time to do that. You know, we've done it the hard way for so long. You know, you're making these calls, you're making these calls, you're making these calls. But once you make the calls, we know the highest rate of conversion is face-to-face. So you've made the call, you gotta let people see you. And so, you know, talking to the neighbors on the phone is one thing, but you could actually go out there and hit the pavements too. But you would ask, I think earlier we were talking about, or that you were said in one of the comments, is this for new agents? Or, I mean, how long have you been doing it? I mean, you've probably been doing it for a long time. That's it. How long have you been in a neighborhood? Like, how long have you stayed in the neighborhood?
Dude, since I started in 2003, 4.
You've been in the same neighborhood.
Same neighborhood-ish. So I really didn't move far away. So it's different for me, right? But a lot of people move, a lot of people change, and that's okay, right? So there's no challenge in that. But what were you referring to when you were going there?
Yeah, because I wonder how long people have patience to, you can't just throw stuff in there gradually and expect this thing to blossom in 2 or 3 years. You gotta have to work it. It's another method of working a market, and you've got to work it. I think sometimes you just people dabble in it. They get a listing and they do a just listed card, or they do just listed card, and then they pull back out. You've got to connect each activity to another one. It's almost like in emailing, when you do sequencing, right? When you set up an email and you have the sequencing and these funnels, you're creating a funnel with a good story that has to connect to a series of things to dominate that market. And part of that is calling into it, mailing into it, you know, having a listing into it, and connect the dots and offering some type of engagement where the people see you as the expert and take over. So it's not a hit and miss. I mean, you've got to continue it, or else it is a waste of money and time. And that's why farming has always had a bad rap on it over the years, because, you know, they thought you just go in there once and that's about it, or a couple times a year. Now that with social media and understanding funnels and understanding how to establish funnels and running them through an engagement process, you got to do the same thing with the houses. And then, you know, who's your competition? The other side of that coin, Tristan, is, have you studied who you're competing against and keep the, for lack of a better word, the intelligence on that person? You know, I remember competing with this guy in my marketplace who was the marketing guy. And I was the calling guy. And so, you know, he would say all these things that I didn't have. And then there was another guy. So it was like, we're hitting these neighborhoods. It's almost like we're going to the same place at the same time. We all have our you know, guerrilla warfare stuff, turning the corners and you see the guy's car, and I'm oh crap, he's there. And so we would compete, I mean, head on like crazy, but I learned how they were selling what they were selling. And so, and then you get their stats, and not that you want to slam anybody, but you just want to know, what are you up against? I mean, do you got a guy that's dominating at 30, 40% of the marketplace? Do you have a guy that is, you know, maybe brand new? I mean, or is the market fragmented? Can you dominate in that marketplace? And what's your strategy for the next 12, 18 months there?
Dude,
you take it over, man.
I'm going to just show a screenshot that I have from one of the presentations I do.
Yeah, SWOT analysis.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
exactly.
Basically, what's your strength, weaknesses? It's a beautiful thing. You know, and what happens if you find out this place that you love, the houses are cool, the neighborhood is great, and you know no one, and a guy's taking over 30 or 40%, and you're going to spend all your money in that place? I'd say get away from it. I mean, we don't have a lot of time to really concentrate. That's why I said, let the farm find you. Go get a listing, go get a FSBO, convert it, go in there, or get a sale in someplace and start to work it. But the SWOT analysis is exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's really key, man. I think most agents also, it's tough for them to really dive deep into a neighborhood, because they've never taken the time to identify what they stand for. Like, what's the objective, right? Some people just go straight in and say, well, how much money am I going to make out of this?
Right. Without knowing that there's only one house that moves every 6 months in that marketplace.
Dude.
You know? You know,
That's
I mean, think about it. I didn't even know what percentage wise, I would think you want to know that you're going to, let's say your goal is to sell 50 homes and you want this market to be part of your mix. That's why I think you should break down all the different sources and already plan out how many houses you think you can get out of each source, so that you're working, let's say your neighborhood is going to get you 5 deals, that you're working it for 5 transactions out of it, because you can get it because there's enough of a data that shows that it comes out of that marketplace. Maybe there's 15 that come out of it and you want to take a fifth of it. And that's, or not a fifth, that's a third. So that's what you've got to do. I think we have to be more strategic in everything that we're doing right now, because there's a lot of agents out there trying to get the same business that you are going for.
And a lot of agents are also trying to pivot or change or adapt to the world that we're in, because like one of the attendees had a comment, said, with COVID and no door knocking, how would you make face-to-face connections, right? And that's where you and I look at what we can leverage technology-wise, right? To be able to say, okay, look, we know you're not going to be able to touch people, handshake them, hug them, say hi to them in person. That's why there are no open houses being done. But when we're talking about neighborhoods here, there are companies out there that can provide you with all the information you need, like data, verified emails, phone numbers, and just the information you need to connect with them, whether you want to call them, text them, email them, depending on your relationship with them, right?
Yeah.
I think really take that further.
With what we're doing at Espresso right now, with the fact that we've taken 2 levels of information for the agents. So they have, let's just say they have a general area for the market at a certain price, and then there's another price for a more a higher quality list of names. Depending on where you are and what the turnover is in that market, what you could invest in that marketplace. But it is going to be a numbers driven situation. Just the strategy of going into a market and calling, you've got to do a lot of calls. You cannot go in and just do a little bit of calls. And the other side of it is you're trying to capture the emails, because the emails are going to be king. You've got to have those emails so that you can start the other sequence of information going out to be able to raise the awareness of your brand in that marketplace and go after it. So with the combination of the phone numbers, which is interesting too, because are you a resource for the market, the neighborhood? Are you providing some resource? And remember, I don't know if we talked about this last time, again, how I like to label things, the status of the equity in your home, so that when you make that call to that person, so what are we doing? We're calling the person up, trying to find out information, but then you're leaving the call. How do you engage them and keep them? Is that you've got to ask them a question. And one good question to ask somebody in a neighborhood is, by the way, thanks for, you may want to call and say, listen, hi, I'm not sure if you can help me. This is Bill Crespo. Just happened to be calling your neighborhood because, you've got a lot of action going on in your neighborhood with homes selling. Wanted to find out, do you know anybody that's thinking about buying or selling? So they say, no, I don't. Great. By the way, do you have a particular agent that you go to when you have your real estate questions? Question, yes or no? They say no, then I have to now offer a thing that sounds like a thing, right? We talked about our thing that we talked about last time. Now we're talking about the equity review report, right? The equity review report. And you can call it whatever you want. The idea is that we can't just say, hey, I'd like to do a CMA for you, let you know the value. Everybody's saying the same thing. But if you came in with an equity review, as I said in earlier things that we had talked about, is the fact that the financial advisors go back to their clients for several reasons. They want to review the performance of their portfolio. They want to find referrals, and they want to also find more money under management. What does an agent do? We sell a house and say, see, in 5 years or 15 years, you're always asking for referrals. But if we were able to engage with that person on a regular basis, whether they did business with us or not, on a service that we can provide that makes sense in our industry, which is a review of their equity. What's their equity position? And then if they say, yeah, I would love that. So let me ask you, before I come over or before I send this to you, are you looking to do, what are your plans with your equity? So let's say I would ask the question, do you plan on investing in real estate with the equity in your home? Do you plan on purchasing something for your family? Or are you looking to buy a new home? So now we found this lead in the neighborhood that's thinking about leaving maybe a year from now. Now you can plan your entire information, but every 6 months you should do an equity review report or an equity position report and make it sound big deal. No different than the financial advisors coming in every quarter, checking the position of the finances for the portfolio. We have to raise our level of service in a way that looks really professional, expert, knowledgeable type of person that you have with a specific report. I would create something with a template that has a similar format every time you do it. That could be sent out in the mail, or that could be hand delivered. What if someone said, well, we're planning on leaving in 12 months? Like I live in the military market. They say, hey, I'm leaving. We're going to be stationed in another station in another year. I would probably say I would book an appointment for 6 months later to tell them where the market is going and what the right thing. And I would interview for the position. I said, listen, I know you don't have someone right now, but I'd like to talk to you about what we can do. And then now you're involved with their life. Then you're working in that neighborhood, man. You're inside that neighborhood.
Dude, you are right on. I think when we have the right tech that we're using, I think it becomes easier for us, right? When we're always looking at leads, leverage, listings, learning, the 4 L's, right? Yeah. We're looking at leverage right now. We're going to leverage technology to help us get more leads and more listings, right? So we're looking specifically on this one with Espresso Agent, what they've got to offer. That's the whole neighborhood search, right? But you want to take that to another level. It's like, well, what do you do with that data? What do you do with that information, right? And that's where I think it becomes a little unclear for people. And that's what I wanted to talk about right now, because besides calling, which should be something that you do, right? Yeah, that's number one. Calling, you can also use this data because you do get emails from it. You can also use this to do newsletters, but not that regular just junk that you get in the mail. In the email, right?
You've got and I think that if you have a phone number, you're testing, you could use BombBomb. You could use other things. You could throw some videos out there. But I think with the email addresses, what I've learned over the years is it stops at one email. There's no sequence. There's not a planned engagement over a course of a certain amount of time. It's like an agent will go, gosh, you know what? It's April. It's spring. I'll do something on spring, or I'll do something. Oh, look, Halloween. But Halloween comes at the same time every year. Thanksgiving comes. You also understand that really one of the biggest things I think that people miss and that I've studied on is that people are motivated by some type of pain, right?
Yep.
So if they're in the neighborhood and they're going to, you're going to send them something about their equity. You're going to send them something about something that could happen to them that you can solve the problem. You're letting them see you. I think, man, with the video right now, you can get into their face really quickly. Yeah. You could also do your presentations over Zoom. I mean, things have changed so much with the information that we have right now with the Espresso. That information needs to be stored. It's not a one-shot deal. You've got to store that information, especially with the higher level of quality that we have now in the database of the neighborhood search. I mean, that is valuable. Anytime you get an email, it needs to go into a sequence of emails that are going out, and making sure this starts to build in that brand that you're building inside of it. And what is the image you're creating? I've seen people just. People can see us do everything right now.
I think that goes back to the objective, man. There's something that the agents miss here, and I want to go back to it, and that was the real objective of why you're in this business, right? And that'll play out on everything, on how you touch your neighborhoods, your past clients, your sphere, everybody. And so there's one quote that Seth Godin, the marketing guy, says. He says, marketing, because that's what we're doing, right? Marketing is the generous act of helping others become who they seek to become. And if you apply that to just what we're doing right here in the simplest form, right? You then start looking at marketing a lot differently. I wanted to show one of the things that we do with data, because people are saying, well, what do you do with this data, right? So one of the things that we do, tell me if you can see my screen, Bill.
Yeah, I see it.
All right, so this is the desktop version. Obviously, there's the mobile version. This is the desktop version, and we use MailChimp to mail out the information. But we grab this information and we give value to our clients. One, we grab a latest article that has to do with what's happening, right? It's a catchy one. The economy is tanking, so why are home prices dropping?
Mm-hmm.
Then we go a little bit different. Here's the different part. This is what we're reading. Check out this book. And Bill, this is the podcast we're listening to. Check it out. It's good, right? And then lastly, oh yeah, we just took a new listing. Check out the virtual tour. Now all of a sudden we create this tribe of people that are looking forward to our newsletter because it's different, right? It's not the same crap that we're getting all the time, right? And if you want to add what you said, which I think is super valuable, which is that equity review report at the bottom, dude.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, maybe even a video through BombBomb that you put at the bottom of you talking a minute in, hey, here's the latest stats on our neighborhood specifically. Then all of a sudden people see you differently. It's what you're talking about. You just
Now the only thing that I think that we have to add along what you just said is that we are the product. The things that we have help us to show that the product, us, is better, because everybody sometimes has a lot of the same products. So when you take the Espresso tools along with you accelerating and improving your ability to communicate at a high level, I mean, you could do all this stuff, and when it comes down to meet the person, you just throw up on yourself. Okay? So there's a development that you have to, because there's a false sense of security. This is why when we do our Monday morning launch and our Wednesday programs, to continue to educate them so you're an experienced agent, so you could back up. There's some that are very intimidated. And so I was talking to a bunch of people about this level of learning that you have to go through. You go through I don't know if you remember the unconscious incompetence stage, and you go to the conscious incompetence to the unconscious part. We want to get so good that when you're in any situation, when you make a call, you email, someone responds to you, that you can back up the claim. You're saying, hey, on paper and the stuff that you're sending, I'm great. And then all of a sudden they meet you, you better be greater, or else you just lost the brand. So the tools are half the issue. The other half, you've got to get better in communicating at a high level, because everybody has everything. The difference is you. The difference is Tristan.
Yeah.
You have a way of communicating.
Well, that's where we have to do a better job of showing how we're different too, right?
Yeah.
By the things we're saying, by how we communicate, right? Yeah. Which is exactly what you're talking about, dude. So yeah. I think that goes right in. So besides calling, besides newsletters, I think people often forget that you can use a lot of this data to look people to use Facebook, the back end of Facebook, as a custom audience, to be able to retarget a lot of these people, right? And so you may think, well, how do I do that? And look, there's a whole YouTube on it. You could definitely go to YouTube and do that's like 30 minutes long, but there's a power behind that too. You just need the data, and this is what Espresso is providing you with, right? Those cell phone numbers and email addresses.
Well, think about this now. So you made the call. Okay, let's just take the steps. So you now you get the data. You're going to make the call, and you got the email. So you make the call, you back it up with an email, and now you're starting to work that neighborhood. And then you start to do that custom audience, and you scale it down to that little neighborhood. People don't know, and I don't know if people know this, that if you have a competitor in that same neighborhood, you could go in and if he's on Facebook, you can customize his list, right? And so now we have this backdoor guerrilla warfare going on capturing that audience in that little area, almost like geo fencing kind of to a certain degree for agents. So, and which is, I know, hard for some agents to go, oh, gosh, that's like advanced. I mean, it's not that hard. The fact of the matter is that we have to connect all the dots. You're going to make a call. You're going to gather the data that we have at Espresso. You're going to start to email on a regular basis. You're going to go by and be visible in the neighborhood. And this is just one source you're working. As you're getting another, as you're using Espresso and getting an expired, you start to now have another farm. So you would have multiple farms. And I think we get so settled into one farm, you don't realize that every place you have a listing is a farm if the numbers make sense. Not one farm, it's multiple farms. Or else we'll never, ever get to the point that we have that, that supposedly 30, 40% coming back to us or 20% coming back to us over the course of our career. That just coming to us.
Yeah, I think that's what people forget, that we're always in different places at different times. And we need to continually have those balls up in the air, right? Like we're juggling.
You can't stay in one market. It's like different funds in the stock market. So you have one neighborhood that is bringing you 2 or 3 deals a year, and then you go to this other one. So every time you get a listing, every time you're calling a FSBO and expire, don't ever just pull out. That's a potential farm. And here's what's interesting, and I think people forget this, that if you have a listing in that farm and they move out and you haven't really worked it, that house, you stay with that house the rest of your life. You don't give up that house to the cooperating agent and no longer market that house, even if your clients have moved out. I mean, it sounds easy, but sometimes we forget that you can now use that same data that we're getting from Espresso, stay with it, because that house is yours till the day you get out of real estate.
Yeah, I think that's the key, man. That's the key. So there's a question for you, and then we'll go to the other question. But this one is, can you give an example again of the equity review and how you would initiate that approach?
So you have a standard report, which is basically a CMA beefed up a little bit. And the idea of the report is that you're going to uncover what their plans are. You're now a service to them like a financial advisor. So the person says, you know, we're going to move in a couple years. So you know that. So that part of your method is that you're going to now plan with them their move out because you uncover that information. If they don't plan on doing that, you're offering a service every 6 months. And I think we should be doing that with all our sales. You know, you get you move someone into a market, you should be reviewing their equity on a regular basis to find out if things are going to be, you know, are they losing money or gaining money? And then what are their plans with the equity? What if they plan on buying a car? You could be a service for them. You can help them to understand at what point would they have that car and really project out the equity as it grows. So now we have a reason to call back instead of going, hi, John. Who do you know that may be moving or, you know, it's like the same thing. But let's raise the level of professionalism and be part of their life, because the other agents are not doing this. The other agents are just calling and calling and calling without no real value but a question. So now you come in and provide them a little simple report, and you could dress it up anywhere you want. You could standardize it, and you can start to give your opinion of the market, where it's going, give them some local stats, provide them a little more guidance on what their plans are. There was an agent many, many years ago, and she's out there. I'll never forget, Marty Rodriguez, one of the top agents in your area.
I know Marty.
Yeah, Marty. You know what Marty used to do, and I don't know if she's still doing it. Did I tell you this? She said to her sellers or buyers, hey, when you work with me, I don't want you to make any big purchases at all, because I'm going to show you how to become financially independent from the equity in your home. She sold that in the beginning of the relationship years ago. I never forget this, where she had generations of families listening to what the original people learned from her, and they just did it, and they were able to buy additional investment properties. Now she's of value beyond that initial sale. And she actually framed it in the beginning of the relationship. So instead of just saying goodbye, it was great working with you. Hey, Bob and Susan, let me just say to you that I'm going to show you how to become financially independent over the course of several years. So don't buy anything of major value without checking with me, so I can help you develop your equity so you can do what you need to do with your family and either put a college plan together, buy some investment property. I'm going to show you how to do this. So her value to the consumer was way above the average agent. You know, Marty was smart, man. I'll never forget that. And I don't know if she's still doing it, but let me tell you, when I heard that, I'm sitting in the audience years ago going, that lady is smart.
Yeah, she is smart. I just talked to her 2 weeks ago. So
really?
Yeah, she's still.
Tell her I'm a fellow Hispanic person. I just want to say hi. This is Bill Crespo.
Still hot on it, man.
You know,
I love it. Well, let me show a little something quick, only because people may want to know how to find that custom audience feature on Facebook. And since, you know, I'm partners with Facebook,
it's pretty interesting,
yeah.
You know, how detailed it is.
Just want to show it really quick. So there's a button that says create right at the top. So you simply just click create and go to add, right? 2 steps so far, super easy. Now, once you do that, you're going to have this window pop up right here. It may look a little bit different, but for me, it looks like this. It says choose a campaign objective. You can choose whatever you want. Traffic, lead generation. I'm just going to choose traffic because it's there, and I'm going to click continue just to show you where this is. And if you miss this, it's being recorded. We're uploading it to our YouTube channel. Right. I'm going to leave the name the same, new campaign. I need to change the special category because we're in real estate, right? Simple. Click. That way it approves it. Now, I'm going to leave everything else the same so I don't confuse you, and go to the next page, because the next page has that custom audience feature. From here, I'm going to leave the name the same right here, but I'm going to scroll down, and you see where it says audience as the headline. That's what I'm looking for, right? It says use saved audience, create new audience, right? Now, when I click on create new audience, it says custom audience. Here's what we're looking for. I'm going to click it, and that's where I find it. You see where it says customer list? And then it says, oh, let me click it. It says create an audience by uploading a list of customers who've interacted with you in business, information in the list, blah, blah, blah. You see, it says needs, it just needs to be in a CSV file.
Yep.
And that's it. And then just follow the rest of the steps. But that's where you find it. I just wanted to show that so people understand the back. How
that's
easy.
Where the value, what you were saying before, the value of Espresso, that data, you now have information that you can just start to take and now take it to that next level. So everything ties in. There's a, you know, you got that information, you got the emails going out. Now you got Facebook really zoning in and right into that ground zero where that listing is. It does take some work, and I know I can hear people now, boy, that's a little overwhelming for me. I mean, how did he click to all these different places? But you just take your time. The bottom line is, I say this before, here's where I get people upset, Tristan, so hang on, is that, listen, all of this stuff that Tristan's showing you, you don't have to do because most of you are not working hard enough right it is right now.
That's right.
So what, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you can get to that 24, 36 transactions with not all that technology. Just take the basic stuff, get the list from Espresso, make the calls. And then when you get that little habit going, then you can get into what he does. And he's just a pro at it because he's gone through those levels. You know how in the beginning you start off afraid to make the calls, you make the calls, then all of a sudden you find out these people are not going to kill you. Then you finally go to their house, they like you, you have a good time with FSBOs and expireds, you start emailing them, it starts getting better, and then you start branching out. But what happens is this is a business of ADD, right? Yeah. And you can't do it all. So start with the basics and then branch out to what Tristan just said, because you know, this could be a fun creative avoidance thing to do.
That's right. That's right. And I think, look, there's a couple of comments I want to answer questions too.
Yeah. So someone loves us.
Someone loves us. Laura, we love you back.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura.
And then Bill, we need your email address. So
yeah, it's it's Bill C at espressoagent.com.
All right.
I'm laughing because Melissa always gets on me.
Agent.
Maybe she could put it on there for me. Bill C at espressoagent.com.
All right. And then Jamie's got a private question over here under the question section. She says, thanks. I think KW Command permits us to do this directly as well as targeting a specific tag. And if we have them tagged by their neighborhood name, then that would do the same. Jamie, correct. Here's the cool part. What you can do is you can grab this neighborhood list from Espresso and then upload it into Command. And then all of a sudden you could start doing so many more things through Command as well. Whether it's, you want to target them through Facebook, or you want to really go deeper through a farm, you could do a lot more through there. So great job, great comment, great question. Now, this one might be for you. This is Jamie Milan, and she's saying, what does that mean you can customize your competitors list? Is that referring to something that we talked about earlier?
No, you know how you can go in and take a person who has a list in there, like similar list. You could copy a list by saying, give me the people who are attracted to Tristan as an agent who is hooked, and you can actually, copy the list over by, something like that. And you're much more aware. You're better than this than I am. I just know with the guy that I hire to do stuff that we're able to do that in some cases.
Oh yeah, very true, very true. I see what you're saying. Yes, you could definitely do that. That's a whole different webinar. We could definitely go into that separately, which, you know what? I think we have a couple of people are asking if this is recorded because they missed it. There's like 3 or 4 different ones. It is recorded. So do me a favor right now, because we've got about 20 minutes to go. Right now, I want you to click on that link and subscribe, because we will be uploading this in about 2 or 3 days. And this way you can go and click, stop, rewind, go through what Bill said with the whole equity review report, because I think that's super powerful. And then you can see where I access the back end of Facebook as well. So just click subscribe there, and we got all that information for you. And some of you are asking, oh, go ahead, Bill.
No, I was going to just say on the equity review report, you have to sell that as an important piece to your service. You just go, hey, listen, I'll give you an equity report. So it's just comes out, there's a element of showing value to this report and why it's important for them to have this. So that's something I think that I just want to add to it, that it is something that you do that's different, that you're able to work with the families, kind of like what I was saying about Marty, that over the course of the year, that I'll be, and I will call you almost like an advisor when the stocks change. He's going to make that phone call, go, oh my gosh, listen, that stock that we had or that money we put in that fund, we've got to switch it. So you have a reason to call them back in 6 months and say, hey, congratulations, here's what's happening with your neighborhood, or hey, here's what's happening with the housing market right now. And so you now set the stage for an easy callback, whether you've done business with them or not. If you're calling that neighborhood, and you ask the question, hey, who do you go to with your real estate questions? Well, I don't have one. I'd like to be that person. And right now what I'm doing is offering an equity review of, where people are with their equity based on their plans. And would you be interested in that information? I said, yeah, we'd like it. Then you get the email. Now we're back into that whole situation of, now you've added another person to your database. You're working with them. Hopefully you will work their network of friends, or you now take that and turn that into a sale down the road. So anyway, just want to make sure that you show value to it, because I think without building it up, it's just another thing and it doesn't have any real true value to the consumer.
Yeah, I think at that point, you're right. And somebody mentioned HomeBot. HomeBot's really great as well for equity reports. You could definitely have that running on the background as well, so that people can then jump on that whenever they need it. What Bill's talking about specifically is when you're reaching out to them, right? So HomeBot is doing this passively and nurturing a lot of your seller leads that are far out, or maybe even some of your past clients. The difference is here, you're picking up the phone and you're reaching out to them and you're saying, because look, we're being proactive here. A lot of people don't understand the market right now that we're in. They just can't comprehend how the real estate market is going up and there are no jobs, right? Or there are less jobs, right? And the economy is suffering. They just don't understand the reality of that. And that's what we can pick up the phone and have that conversation with with our clients to then help them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's key, man, because
we're
a lot
a true
of people,
advisor now. We're not there. We need to decipher what's going on. And if we're confused, they're going to be confused. But if we're confident in our delivery of our information, and listen, if you're a family wanting to move in a couple of years, you're a little concerned of what's happening here. So you're there to hold their hand through that process as the specialist. You're the doctor, you're the patient. You've got the vaccine to help them move. So that's what we're saying here, and we're positioning ourselves completely different than the other agents, because everybody starts to sound the same, right? What's the difference between you and some other agent? You are the final product that shows the difference. So that's where communication, what you do for them is going to be different.
that's it. I mean, look, let's say we do have tech involved, right? We've downloaded our list from Espresso. Now we're calling those people on the list, but we also have like, who was it who commented here? Dan. Let's say Dan's also running HomeBot on the back end. And somebody on HomeBot decides that they're asking a little bit more information. It's like raising their hand. Well, you call them, you talk with them, Dan, and you say, hey, look, I noticed you were inquiring for more information about your equity or whatever else you want to talk about. But here's the key feature, like Bill's saying, because you're staying up to date with what's happening with the world in real estate, you're reading the Wall Street Journal, you're reading Housing Wire consistently, you can say, hey, you know what, there's a great article that just came out 2 days ago. I'm going to send it over to you, right? Take a look at it. But that's the reality of our world right now. And if you want to know the exact value of your home, you'd be surprised it probably has gone up over the last 3 months. And I know it sounds crazy, but let me show you, right? And then all of a sudden, you're providing real content from news outlets, right? You look even that more like you're saying, that advisor that we're looking to be for people, right? Yeah. Just with the information we have around us.
Right. And because the impression overall of real estate, they lump us all into this one category. So with the great news is that a little bit of difference takes you totally out of that group of people. And now they go, this is the person I need to answer my questions regarding real estate. And with the numbers that you have, as long as you're using it, I mean, like I tell everybody at Espresso, learn this is, again, I'll get myself in trouble. I say, don't shit on yourself. And then, don't shit on, I don't want you to say, I should have used Espresso and I didn't use it, or I should have called that prospect. A lot of times we shit on ourselves and we don't get our business going where we want to go. So I'm saying, let's get on it now, because we're in third quarter.
Yep.
We have no idea what fourth quarter is. So I'm believing that we better start getting really good on our business now, because we got to carry ourselves all the way through 2021 and get through fourth quarter, which means I've got to get my skills up. I've got to do everything aggressive right now that I can. I've got to be able to get into that neighborhood now before weather changes or different things change, so that I position myself in the 1 or 2 position in the marketplace where I want to start to work. And that's going to be taking these numbers and working it to the fullest and doing what Tristan said with the other aspects of media. So it's all out right now. It's put the hammer down and go at it, and don't hold up until, it's too easy to step back right now.
Yeah, I think, dude, that's such a good point right now, that right now is where the money is. Right now. And I think one thing that people often forget is that with all of this information and data coming through, we thought that being everywhere at once was the way to go, but it's the opposite now. This is why it's even more important, right? And if you want a list of the things you need to be doing, just on what Bill and I are going back and forth on, look, first step, download this neighborhood data from Espresso. That's the first step. Number 2, do the simplest thing, which is use the list to call people, but be prepared. Like, understand if it's a neighborhood, have that equity report already in your mind, because it's not going to change if you're calling neighbors.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty close, right? And then decide, do I want to do a newsletter that fits this specific neighborhood? And then once you've got the hang of it, do you want to do Facebook, right? then you dive into that. Do you want to use BombBomb as an additional feature? Do you want to use HomeBot? But the point is you need to start somewhere, and it all starts with the data that you have, right?
Yeah.
That's the key, man. That's the key. There's a question from the Facebook audience here, and Tessa brought it through. It says, we have a question coming from Facebook Live from Killian. What's up, Killian? Is Zapier integration on the roadmap? I'm assuming they're referring to downloading the neighborhood search criteria and being able to integrate it into the CRM through Zapier. And I'd have to say that that's probably not on the roadmap, only because then at that point, everybody can just grab the data and throw it into the CRM and start spamming people, right, rather than choosing people individually. That's my thought on talking to other tech companies. But Killian, we may have to get back to you on that one, because I don't know if I know the answer.
Yeah. I mean, just simple stuff that I saw. I was reviewing somebody's emails, and Tristan, I'm sure you know this as well as I do, is that the emails that are going out, so you say you pull down the neighborhood search and now you're calling and then you want to email it. There are some, in the subject column, there's things that are automatically spamming it because they're putting question marks, or they're doing things in bold, and that triggers going into spam so easily. So and I've seen some of these follow-up email campaigns that are out there that the agents not realize that there's a way of doing it to get out of spam folders. And anyway, that's just something I say. I saw this just the other day. I go, gosh, this is ridiculous. You know, quotation marks, question marks, capitalized, bold, all that is triggering the system to spam it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things on there that once you start diving into it and you decide this is going to be the route that I take through newsletters, then you dive in deeper, dude. But you hit it right on, my friend. All right. Yeah. I think I put up the link up there for Espresso. Let me just get it one more time here. I'm just going to grab the neighborhood search one specifically, because obviously Espresso does expires and for sale by owners as well.
There and Mondays too, Tristan, I want to remind you, on Mondays, I talk to everybody around 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in Espresso, join us on Mondays. We do a thing on Monday morning launch just to get everybody ready for the week and get them all motivated. So I'll get you all going on Mondays too. But this new system that we have is going to really change the face of the quality of the numbers and the addresses that we need. So check it out. It's coming out.
I love it, dude. All right. Join us Monday. Bill, thanks again. But I think I have the most fun with you, man.
I don't know, man. We gotta, I can't wait to go to Malibu.
Dude, I can't wait to go to Virginia Beach.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on down. We'll do some paddle boarding.
I love it, dude.
And the water is much warmer than your water.
Oh, heck yeah, 100%. It's freezing over here.
And it could be 90 degrees and still like 50 degrees in the water. It's crazy. And then you have kelp, which I can't swim with kelp.
It freaks you out when you're walking in the water?
Oh, yeah. That's the wraps around your neck. I was in down, not at Malibu, but down there by Laguna, and I was in the water. I go, how do you guys do this, man? It's like,
You get used to it, dude. This is all we got.
No, man. I got little flowers that fall in the water with us. But anyway.
It's crazy.
Enough said about that.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is recorded. We're posting it to our YouTube channel. It's Lab Coat Agents. And obviously, thank you to Espresso. And thank you to Bill again. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, man. A lot of fun.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you, buddy.
Bye-bye.